Hello everybody and welcome to a small walkthrough of a game to try and get me back into the swing of things. Obviously I'm not going to do a full let's play yet, I've decided that. And it's going to be of this game, Democracy, which you can get from Steam, download from it. It's about $18.99, probably just over $25 I suppose in American currency. And basically you run a country and the aim is trying to get re-elected, I suppose. Obviously democracy. You've got a few countries to choose from, and obviously I'll go for United Kingdom because that's where I was born and live. So we'll play, and we've got some few options here. Obviously I'll go with what it is like in Britain, so term lengths of 5 years, although I think you can have less parliaments in terms of years, but mostly it's 5 years, and there's no limit on how many terms you can have. We are a monarchy, and our opposition party, I suppose, would be the Conservatives, because that's the largest party in this country. And I'll just... let's just choose one here, I think. I'll just keep that on the Liberal Party, I suppose, even though they've been basically annihilated in the last general election, if you're watching that at all. So we'll play. Once it loads, which hopefully it shouldn't be too long. Here we are, right. And I'll try and go over what this game is about because it's quite easy to do. I haven't played too much of it, but it was quite enjoyable. So I'm Prime Minister. There's 63 million people living in the country that I've got to look after now, and this sort of breakdown of all the main areas. And as you can see, unemployment is high, GDP, which is gross domestic product, is low, and the other stuff is generally average. So this is the main page, and you may be looking at it and go, what the hell? But it is quite easy to understand once you get into it. The blue sort of circles here are stats, which you can look at, and as you can see, if you hover over something, it sort of points to what things affect it and what stuff it affects. So obviously oil demand will affect oil price. The white circles are your policies, which you can edit and introduce new policies, and the red ones are crises. Yeah, got that bit tongue twister there. So basically up here, this is a time limit. Obviously we've just started our 5-year term, and our aim is to get re-elected across at the end, obviously at the 5 years. And this is how you know your popularity, which is sort of average to low. We want to try and increase that, and then it's split into all these different people. Now obviously, as you can see, the middle income people aren't very happy with us, and the capitalists aren't very happy with us. No matter what I've done, I can't really make them happy. I think if you want to make the capitalists happy, you have to make everyone else unhappy. So we won't be concentrating on that really. But also you might think that one person might fit into more than one area, which is true. You can have a middle income person who's also a parent, who may also be retired as well, I suppose. So also it decides what area you want to go into, but I want to mainly concentrate obviously on getting re-elected, but also balancing the books. Obviously we've got income in each quarter, how much money we're making, that's mainly through taxes. Our expenditure, how much we're spending on public services, things like that, and then the deficit is the difference. And obviously because it's a deficit, it means we're spending more than we're taking in. If we were making money, it'd be a surplus, and then that affects your overall national debt. So based on this, in the next turn, £3.6 billion will be added to the national debt, so it will be about £806 billion of debt. So I'm going to try and decrease that. I'm not sure how much by, but we'll see. And in order to do that, we just need to change policies. Basically, we can increase taxes, but that's not very popular obviously, or we can reduce spending, which again is not popular, or there are many options, and you can go into more detail if you click. I'll try and find the right one. Oh yeah, this money icon. Obviously here's our expenditure. Obviously you can now see what stuff is costing us a lot of money, and where we can reduce it, and then our income. And as you can see, over half our income is just from income tax, which is quite truthful actually, which a lot of people don't like to pay tax obviously. And charts, basically debts, income, expenditure, the global economy, which will affect how much money we make, I suppose, and the interest rate, because obviously you may think, what's the point of trying to reduce the debt of a country? Well, we obviously pay interest on that debt, and although the interest rate will be very low, it's still money. So we've got an £803 billion debt, and we're paying £4.7 billion of that in debt interest, and obviously that's not much, but it's still want to try and reduce that. So the first thing, obviously if you want to change anything, you need this thing here, which is, I think it's called political will, and to do that, or that is calculated based on your cabinet, so their number altogether adds up how much you make each turn. So you want to try and spend it because you'll get it back the following turn. Obviously you can fire people or hire new people sorry about that, or completely reshuffle the entire cabinet, which costs 10 capital. That's what it is, capital. So for this first sort of phase, this first 3 months, this first quarter of the year, I'm just going to look at trying to turn this deficit into a budget surplus. And so we'll have a look at what we're spending money on. Now, state pension is obviously the most, but we want to try and keep that high, because if you click on it, if you reduce it, it's going to cost us a lot. In terms of retired people, they're going to be not happy, obviously, reducing their retirement fund. So what I'm actually going to do, and I've done this on the last game, is actually reduce, if you have a look, military spending is £25 billion per quarter. Now that's a lot, really. 9% of our GDP, or our income, is going towards military spending, which I think is a very large amount. So we're going to lower this, not by a massive amount, but that will save us quite a lot of money. It's not very popular increasing it or decreasing it, so it doesn't affect too much our opinion polls. And to lower it costs 19, which is quite a lot because we only have 26 capital available, but I think it'll be worth it. So we're going to reduce, and it sort of tells you what it's going to become. So it's light defensive. You can go all the way to a, what's that, overwhelming force, but we're definitely not doing that because it's expensive. And I think reducing it to probably 18 billion for now is probably okay. That will be alright, so we'll do that. So hopefully that's already turned it into budget surplus. So let's have a look at some of these crises. I can never say that word properly. So this one, alcohol abuse. So we're having serious problems with people consuming alcohol in large quantities. This is obviously bad for their health, but it's also leading to crime and disorder in our cities. So obviously, as you can see, one thing can affect many things. So we want to try and reduce this. And you can see causes, and the biggest cause is alcohol consumption. So if we reduce alcohol consumption, we reduce alcohol abuse. So let's try and do that. And there's ways we can do that with an alcohol tax and alcohol law. And we don't have enough to change it at the minute. We have to might have to wait until next turn. What about alcohol tax? We can only lower it, we can't higher it. So we've got to leave that. So I think there's not much else we can do, but we'll look at the other crises. Or crises. Organised crime. I tried to get rid of this one on another save, and no matter what I did, I couldn't get rid of it. So I might leave that for the minute. Asthma epidemic. Getting all my words wrong here. So you can see asthma and other lung diseases are a serious problem amongst our citizens. Not only does this obviously seriously impact their quality of life, but it also reduces our productivity and filling our hospital beds. Poor air quality, possibly caused by factory pollution and car fumes, together with smoking, are the likely causes. So this is all to do with the environment, really. So there's lots of stuff we can do here, but I don't think we'll be able to change anything this turn. That's the problem. But that's something we'll look at next turn. Right, what's this one? Oh, technology backwater. This is a much more longer term one because it's going to cost a lot of money, but basically our industry is old and we need to update it, but it's going to cost a lot of money. Science funding, technology, that's much more long term. Uncompetitive economy, again we'll have to look at that. That's probably a more long term one. And Homelessness, which is not very nice, we definitely need to drop that, but again we'll have to wait till our next quarter. So I'll click next. Right, hopefully I'm doing alright, and this has been my first Let's Play in over a year I think, so I'm sorry if it's a bit juddery, but I'm trying my best. So that's the end of the first turn, and as we can see, this is sort of like a brief of the last quarter, and we now have a surplus, a small surplus, but it is a surplus nonetheless, so that's good. And these question marks are things we usually have to look at. So there's a data protection law. Debt collection agencies have been in the news because of aggressive methods that they are using to extract payments from people who owe large sums of money. These debt collection agencies provide credit to people whom larger, more respectable companies will not lend money. A law is proposed to limit the ways in which such agencies can operate. So you can choose to limit the agent activity or just allow the agencies to operate. And we've got to think of what people will like, what the general public will like. And I think they will like to limit agent activity. So we'll do that. Polls, which is obviously what looks like what the people are thinking of our government, and 42% think they'll vote for us, which we want it to be higher, but it's not too bad at the minute. I think we can definitely increase that. Yeah, budget surplus, the cabinet report. I don't really look at this one because it doesn't seem to change that much, or on the ones I've done. And these are all the other parties and their membership and their threat assessment. I suppose that's what, obviously the biggest party will have the most threat, the Human Rights Society. So it looks like that's alright, although that's gone up. Or maybe because it was a budget deficit the last turn, but the next turn it will decrease. Okay, that's alright. I think if we click it... also the global economy is shrinking, or going downwards. I think also the UK's debt is much higher than this now. It's more like close to 1.5 trillion pounds, I think. So this is probably taken probably around the financial crisis, so 2008, so it is a long time ago. So the crisis is alcohol abuse is it's moved about. Right, so actually let's look at our capital. We've got 34, which is a lot, so let's look at alcohol abuse and let's try and reduce this alcohol consumption to a manageable level. Now the first thing I'm going to do is an alcohol law. So this is the law at the minute. You have to be a minimum age of 18. We can raise that to 21, or we can make the beer lower strength, or we can have strong restrictions which people won't like. I'm going to go for, or I could just leave that one actually, because it will reduce alcohol consumption, but we're not making any money from it. In fact, let's look at alcohol tax. Yeah, let's tax people instead, because it makes us 5 billion already. We can increase that. 19% tax. Let's increase that to 25%. It doesn't change people's ideas much. It will make alcohol consumption reduce a little bit. That will help us, and we'll be making about 2 billion more per quarter for now. So I'll do that. And in fact, I probably will do the alcohol law as well. Increase it to 21. That will reduce alcohol consumption by a lot. Well, a lot more than the tax. So we'll do that. And again, we've only got 12, so there's not much else we can probably do this term. But I'll show you something we can do. Policy ideas. So obviously all these white ones are policies we already have. And then we can introduce new ones. Sorry about that. A bit of a dry throat. Split into these several sections, and we want to try and do, probably towards the end of our term, things that people like. Free eye test, for instance, say 80% popularity with the voters, and it doesn't cost too much. But that's something we'll look at further in the term. At the minute, trying to balance the books is probably the most important thing. Also, the environment, because we've got this asthma epidemic. I get some of my words wrong, and it's the environment that's causing this. So, and obviously what's causing all the bad stuff to the environment is pollution, and obviously most of that comes from cars, unfortunately. So we're going to try and reduce car usage, and to do that, for some reason road building changes that, although again we can't do it this turn because we need 18 capital and we've only got 12. Okay, we might do that next turn, and it costs a lot of money, so we might actually save money there, but we could still use this 12 capital this turn. Let's look at the homeless one. Unemployment benefit. State housing might be a good thing. It's expensive, but it is popular, and we want to try and reduce this homelessness, so I'm actually going to increase the budget for state housing. What's it on at the minute? 24 billion. So I'm going to increase it to 26.5 roughly, and that'll give us a decrease in homelessness by a little bit, and it'll make people happy, I think. So let's end this turn again, and hopefully this debt will be reduced by a little bit. Yes, we still have a budget surplus. Again, very small, but it's still a surplus. That's what was good. Our estimates in the polls increased by 4%, because I think it was 42%, which is good. They're liking our ideas, obviously. Euthanasia. A once famous citizen, aged 66, is suffering from a terminal disease and living in constant severe pain. Although modern medical techniques can keep him alive for many more years, he has expressed a repeated desire to be allowed to take his own life. Now, this is actually something that's happening in the UK at the minute. You get stories of people going to Switzerland to end their lives because it's not legalised in this country yet. So it's a difficult one, actually. I think I'll leave it unchanged for the minute to keep it in line with what it actually is in this country, because people can actually get people's family can actually get prosecuted if you're not careful. And oh look, membership's gone down generally, so that's good, of the other parties. You can have a look. Yes, they almost at the line for half the votes, which is what we need to definitely form a government. So I think we're all right at the minute, and we've got 30 capital. So let's have a look at what we wanted to do, which was the environment. So we're going to reduce this, yes, to existing road fixes rather than expanding the road network, because I suppose generally if you expand the road network there are going to be more cars because more people will drive, so, and it will save us a bit of money. So we're going to reduce it to 10 billion. Just do that. Oh, it's very hard to, there you go. It's like a thing here, you can't actually put an exact number in. So we'll do that, and that's cost us a lot. But we've got 12. Actually, let's have a look at our alcohol abuse. It hasn't dropped yet, but I think some of the things take a few turns to implement. So yeah, they're still not there yet. So we'll have to wait, and hopefully that will reduce in time. Homelessness was increased a little bit, but again, I think we have to wait. Yeah, it's still not actually filled that in yet. So I think with this extra 12, we could save it for next turn to add it on the amount we'll get. But I want to introduce a new policy, something that people will like, to just get our approval rating, our popularity, just above the 50% mark for now. And I think, what was it? Free eye test, yeah. It only costs 1.2 billion to implement at full amount, and it's very popular with the voters. So we're going to do that at full amount. And see, poor people are happy, poor earnings, retired people are happy, and it increases health. So all in all, it's quite good. And yes, it's dropped our debt to 803 billion. Still a long way to go. Where is the debt? Yeah, it's tiny gone down a little bit, and the global economy is still going down. But we're still making a surplus, so that's all right. So I think, oh, what's this one? There's all these things. I haven't looked at all of them, so I'm just going to have a quick look. Oh, handgun laws. Yeah, actually, we might actually raise this to make it more in line with what this UK is actually like. There's very strict laws on handguns. In fact, I'm not even sure you're allowed handguns. You are allowed rifles and things like that, but handguns, I'm not so sure. So we have an even smaller surplus now. It's now in the millions. So we have to actually have a look at trying to increase that again, because that's just too small. polls are going up again, another 2%, so we're almost at the 50% mark. That's alright. A stress epidemic. Now, doctors have warned that our businesses are working people too hard, which has led to dangerously high levels of stress for people with full-time jobs. There are calls to limit the hours that people work, be better enforced by central government. Again, that's something that's is correct to the actual our country. A lot of people go off with stress when they go off on sick leave. Right, let's have a look. Is the thing going down yet? Aha, yes. It's starting to go down now, but in order for this alcohol abuse thing to disappear, it has to go below that green line. So it is a long way off yet. Our surplus is small, so I'm going to try and do something to increase that to a better surplus. And I actually did think of something. What was it? It was to do with taxes. There's petrol tax, which is a big money earner actually, and it actually will help us reduce car usage. Oh, to raise it costs 36. We've only got 30. Okay, we'll leave that one until next time maybe. Oh yeah, cigarettes tax or tobacco tax. Obviously if we increase this, we're making a bit of an income, and it reduces tobacco usage, which I suppose will increase health, because obviously cigarettes aren't good for you really. So it does cost a lot to raise it, but I'm going to do that. We're going to do a 5% increase maybe, although that doesn't really give us much more money. I'm going to do a 10% increase actually to 25%. Tobacco usage will go down, so all in all that's okay. No one likes it though, but tobacco is bad for you. And I think again there's not much we can do because the capital's gone down again, but I think our surplus will increase because of that increase in the tobacco tax. Where is it? Not by much. It's gone down the polls to 46%. We'll have to have a look at that. Oh, another thing. A number of large agricultural companies are interested in growing genetically modified food on our soil. Some food can be genetically manipulated to allow for longer shelf life and both disease and herbicide resistance. Opponents are concerned about the potential risks associated with altering the food chain. Farmers are divided on the issue. I think we're going to ban it. Ban everything. So, it's still above 800 billion in debt, but it's getting close to going under, which is alright. And still 29. And the polls aren't great yet. We need to increase this. I think it's time to introduce a new policy. Maybe something. Oh, consumer rights. Maternity leave. All these things that people might like. We can introduce the consumer rights though. It doesn't cost much, and people, well, it's quite popular with the voters, so we'll do that. And what the hell, we'll put it off to all the way to the top. So that should help our popularity, I think. Alcohol abuse, yeah, still decreasing, that's great. And I'll leave this capital for the next turn, so we should have a lot, so we can do some big changes if need be. Oh yes, we're at the 50% mark on the polls, great. Oh, and our credit rating has been downgraded, which is not that good really. And the global economy is in recession, which is having an impact on our GDP. And because of that, we've now gone into a deficit. And our popularity? Yeah, 50%. So our popularity is increasing, but the money situation isn't great at the minute. So I'm going to have to look at that again. And there's one thing you can do. I don't want to do it yet. You can introduce a carbon tax, and that makes a lot of money. But not as much as income tax, obviously, but it makes a lot of money. I might have to look at that. But I think I'll finish this turn and then finish this first episode and see if you like it and see if you want me to continue it. So we've got 41 capital. We've got a lot of capital which we can do something with. And I'm thinking increasing petrol tax, because it's a big earner, £21 billion per quarter. If we increase that, we make more money, and it reduces car usage, which will help the environment. Motorists won't be happy about this, but environmentalists will. And well, motorists make up actually about half the population. Environmentalists make up a lot less. But I think in the long term, we're still not halfway through our current term. We can do this, I think. It's a good thing to do, I think. So we'll increase it. We can raise it. It's cost a lot to raise it, but we can. To 30%. Actually, which will give us an extra 6 billion a quarter. So we'll do that. And we've only got 5 left. I think I'll leave it there to keep it for the next quarter. So that's the end of this first episode of Democracy. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll probably do a new episode either next weekend or the weekend after. So thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you next time.